No change. What is up, Fin fans? No change. We're going to talk about it. You saw the thumbnail. We're going to talk about that as well. There's a lot that I want to talk about today, being that I can't do film breakdowns on YouTube anymore without getting copyright striked or claimed or whatever, meaning I put the film breakdown on YouTube, and then if you go back and watch the last film breakdown, it's probably chopped up like a mother. That's the only way I can keep it monetized. So it'll be on the Patreon, which annoys me because, honestly, do you guys really want to see a film breakdown of that loss where we scored 6 points? Because it was bad. Our offensive line was bad. It was just bad all around. So there's that. Let's talk about this. I do want to real quickly shout out Sleeper. Again, I love using the app. It's really fun, really convenient, really easy to use. You get $20 free entry, no deposit needed. But if you do deposit more than $20, if you use the promo code DDW, you get 100% up to $100. Click the link in the description. Love them. We use them for the picks. I use them to show you the more or less for our opponents and what the Dolphins are projected. So yeah, go check it out. I think I told you to take the less on Tua, and I was spot on. I think he threw for like 100 and something yards. He did nothing. So Ian Rappaport came out yesterday and said, on the Miami Dolphins, no changes are expected at this time, I'm being told. And Barry Jackson came out and said, when I've asked a Ross associate why no change, he cited the owner wanted to give McDaniel / Greer a fair amount of time to turn this around. Yesterday and previous weeks did not qualify, in his view, as a reason to change from that approach. Who knows what will? So he wants to give them enough time to try and turn this around. There is no turning it around. You're 1-6 for the second straight year in a row. There's no turning it around. You have to go on a ridiculous win streak, and the first half of the schedule was the easy part of the schedule. Facing the Cleveland Browns, facing the Carolina Panthers, the Chargers game, all of these games where you were one score away from winning or you lost by a score, a Bills game was 2 scores, was your easy part of the schedule. You now have to face the Falcons, who, yes, lost, but they are much better than the Browns. You then have to face the Ravens, who are going to have Lamar Jackson back on a short week. That's going to be a butt whooping because you have to deal with a mobile quarterback and Derrick Henry. Oh, also you have to deal with Bijan Robinson on Sunday. Then you have to face the Bills again, who again, Josh Allen is your daddy and James Cook is a very good running back. And then you have to go to Madrid and face Washington, who I think James Daniels is dealing with an injury, but even that, so he wants to give them a fair amount of time to turn this around. He's lying, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he's doing in a second because there's things I want to talk about. So this is what Ian Rappaport had to say.
Mike McDaniel said it. They really need to figure out who they are and really find out what they are made of. The problem is the record's rough, and the spotlight is very firmly on the Miami Dolphins right now, and there's been several reasons why. First of all, some high-profile losses can put a coach put a team into crosshairs. Plus, last week we had the controversy with starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa calling out some of his teammates for late arrivals to players-only film sessions or something like that, and then going back, walking back his comments, kind of more firmly put eyeballs on the Miami Dolphins, making sure everyone took notice of who they are, how they play, and how they respond. And then they come out and have one of the worst losses of the season to one of the NFL's worst teams. And my understanding, early on in the season for the Dolphins and for Mike McDaniel, is owner Stephen Ross likes him and believes in him, has extended him in the past, and wants to go forward with Mike McDaniel. The only thing that would change it is if, one, fans suddenly stop showing up to the stadium, which could happen for a really bad team in a lost season, or two, if the players stop playing for him. And, I'm not saying yesterday's result was that, but it certainly didn't go in a great direction. We don't know right now what is going to happen for the Miami Dolphins, but I believe it's fair to say that questions about the future of Mike McDaniel and Tua, by the way, and everything that is in the Dolphins' orbit. It is all fair now with that performance that they gave on Sunday.
So that kind of, I'm going to get to it all. I have so much that I want to talk to you about. I'm just giving you little tidbits of information. I'm throwing information at you because I got it all. I got all of it. And when I tell you what's running through this noggin of mine, this dyslexic brain of mine, you're going to go, oh, or you're going to go, yeah, I figured. So there's that, right? That's what Ian Rappaport had to say. Obviously, it also has been reiterated to me over and over that Ross is fond of both Greer and McDaniel. Take with that what you want. What else do I got? See, like I could show you, I don't know if I'll get copyright claim for this, but I can show you, let me see, stuff like this, like what Coach, my man, Eric Smith shows. He kind of has a little bit of a film here. Now I'm wondering if I will get copyright claim for just showing that, in the corner, because he's showing this play here that essentially what he says is outside run to the weak side. This is your weak side of your offensive line over here. And of course and then obviously the next play is the interception. Why are you running behind our two worst offensive linemen? It's just horrible. So I could maybe do stuff like that. I don't know. To put a big old turd on the top of this crap Sunday, Darren Waller has a pectoral strain, which is good because it's not a tear, which means he's not out for the season, but he is going to be week to week at this point. Honestly, does it really matter? Does it really matter? Also, Jason Sanders, James Daniels, Austin Jackson, and Liam Eichenberg are all not expected to return to practice this week. I'm going to get to it because I got things I want to say. Let's go into what Mike McDaniel had to say. Dolphins Mike McDaniel said Tua will be the starting quarterback this week, and his expectation is that he will not throw 10 picks. So funny, Mike. You're so funny. But the fact that he came out and he had to reiterate that Tua is going to be the starter, I honestly think after the bye week or at some point in the second half of this season, Quinn Ewers is going to be the starter. Because I honestly think, and I got pushback for saying this, but I honestly think that he's started losing a little bit of the locker room, and I'm talking about Tua by his comments that day. But yeah. So then McDaniel and Tua watched the tape of the Dolphins offense versus the Browns together this morning and had direct communication about the ebbs and flows and how they can improve. McDaniel said it probably the third or fourth time they've done it this year, but it was very important that they do so again today, because it really made a difference. It made no difference. On what he learned from watching the film with the Browns, he said, I don't really have an opinion on the two teams against each other because we didn't really participate in the game. When I talk to Omar Kelly and Alan Poupart later tonight on the Dolphin Collective, I'm going to give them a lot of credit. Because they have to ask this man questions and listen to that. And I really I'm going to ask them too, does anyone make faces? Do you guys ever look at each other and go, what the hell? I don't really have an opinion on the two teams against each other because we didn't really participate in the game. You're bad, man. You're losing and you're out here cracking jokes. Seriously? Oh, and then there's this. Then there's this. I gotta show you this. Hold on. Let's switch to this one. Maybe this one's a better one. It was a little better. I gotta show you this one. And if anyone's listening to this on the podcast, go over to the YouTube channel. You can see this. The Cleveland Browns posted this. Listen.
Give it to me, too. Give it to me, too.
Called it. Give it to me, Tua. Throw it right to him. Right to him. What else do I want to talk about real quick? I am going to talk about trade stuff, but that will be Saturday, because I got a short week after the Falcons game. So Saturday, the November 1st, trade deadline stuff, who could be traded, who, buyers, sellers, all that garbage. Aaron Brewer on the team struggles. The little details throughout the game, turnovers, it didn't help. In the NFL, you get a certain amount of turnovers, and whoever wins the battle wins the game. Now, I agree, and some of his snaps were sloppy. Again, I'll break down the film if you really want me to, but there were some snaps that were so bad, and then instant pressure, it was just a horrible, horrible thing. Alec Ingold on starting 1-6. We work so hard during the week, and to consistently not get results baffles me. It's not just translating with urgency, with guys making those mistakes, the controllable stuff. Honestly, it has a lot to do with the fact that you have a guy playing on your offensive line in a position he hasn't played in before. And I understand, they came out and they essentially said, oh, we want to see if he can get better there instead of da-da-da. And no, man, just put him back at right guard. And have a competition at left guard, because Strange is not doing it. This is Joe Rose, what he has to say.
But we're bad. And when people say we're dysfunctional, man, it looks dysfunctional. It just does. It looks dysfunctional going back to Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. And I know why. One was money. The other was he's a bad guy. But it's just the timing. We give contracts out to guys. They're not around. It just doesn't look the way the good organization should look. It just doesn't. And I'm not one sitting here saying get rid of everybody. And I know if you do get rid of the top people, there's a good chance a lot of people underneath are going to have to lose jobs. And there's a lot of good coaches on this staff. There's a lot of good people. But it's just this is so frustrating that we tried this thing a few years ago. Seemed like just yesterday we lost to Kansas City Chiefs, and man, we were jacked up. We came back home and we had 11 wins and we lost to them, but it was like, damn, let's give extensions. Let's do this. Let's do that. And now just a couple of cups of coffee and we've turned into one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in football. Clearly, by the way, it's not, we're it. That loss yesterday was a new low. Considering who you're playing, that's a new low.
100%. We go from 2023, where we beat the Dallas Cowboys, clinch a playoff spot. We're sitting at 11-4, and things are beautiful, right? We have 2 more games left to play. We have the Ravens and we have the Bills. And you just got to win one of them. You win the division. And we lost both of them. And then we had to it was just, we were in such a high. Going into the Tennessee Titan game, screw it. Going into the last 2.5 minutes of the Tennessee Titan game, we were on such a high. We're like, this team is so good. And we're going to win the division. And they're going to have to play in Miami. And we're going to, oh, it's so good. And now we're sitting here 2 years later, the Jets are worse than us. But honestly, they might not be. We're just sitting here just pathetic. Just a pathetic team. I got nothing to say, man. I also want you to listen to this real quick. I'm not going to make you listen to him. But Colin Cowherd said Tua could find success in other situations. He thinks the Dolphins would be able to move him in a portion of his contract. I've been telling you that. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Tua. We're going to talk about his contract. We're going to talk about all that stuff. But I want to talk about the thumbnail. And I want to talk about what I think is honestly really going on. Because I don't think it has anything to do with Stephen Ross likes Mike McDaniel and Stephen Ross likes Chris Greer, and he gave these guys a contract extension, so he's not going to move off of these guys because he paid them, blah blah blah, this and that. I just want to take you back to 2009. Was it 2009 or 2009? He went out. Was it 2009? It might have been 2010. He went out. Jim Harbaugh met with him, got in his helicopter, went over and met with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's like, nah, I'm going Michigan. I'm going college. All right, no problem. Full court press. Going out, Jim Harbaugh. Flies back to Miami in his helicopter. Meets with Tony Sparano. Hey, Tony, sit down. I want to talk to you real quick. Both New Yorkers. Listen, I'm going to give you a contract extension. I like what you did in 2008. I'm going to give you a contract extension. Here you go, bud. Here's a contract extension. Don't mind what happened with Jim Harbaugh. I was just going to go I was asking him his grandma's recipe for chicken noodle soup. That's all. Sign the contract. I'm going to give you a contract extension. Beautiful thing. Like what you're doing with this team. Keep coaching them. Don't worry about nothing. Fast forward to I think it was week 9 or 10. Hey, Tony, can you come in my office real quick? You're fired. So him giving a coach a contract extension means nothing. The man's a billionaire. He fired Adam Gase. He fired Brian Flores. He was it doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter. So it has nothing to do with, oh, he likes him. This is what it has to do with. Stephen Ross wanted Lamar Jackson. That was the rumors. And we have no verified yes or no, but let's just run with it, right? Let's just run with it. He wanted Lamar Jackson. The Dolphins didn't get Lamar Jackson. I think it was Adam Gase at the time. He didn't like Lamar Jackson. So he didn't get him because what Chris Grier does is what the head coach wants. Essentially, the head coach gives Chris Grier the shopping list. He goes out and gets the groceries, come back, blah, blah, blah. That's how Chris Grier's still around because he probably keeps telling Stephen Ross, I want to go get him. I went and got what the coach wanted to. So Stephen Ross wanted Lamar. Adam Gase didn't want Lamar. Chris Grier listened to Adam Gase, again, the scapegoat. They didn't go out and get Lamar. Now we fast forward to, Lamar Jackson, the league MVP and one of the best football players in the league. And Stephen Ross is probably like, you MFers. I wanted to go out and get Lamar. I wanted to go get Sean Payton. I wanted to go get Tom Brady. I wanted to do all of these things, right or wrong. And you have not listened to me at any crossing. So you know what? This is what's happening. And I think he's keeping it to himself. I don't think I think him and Tom Garfinkel are the ones who are keeping it to themselves. And I think, because he's getting a lot of backlash for not firing Mike McDaniel. I think he's not firing Mike McDaniel because he wants that number 1 overall pick. And Mike McDaniel is over his head right now. For the past 2 years, Mike McDaniel has been in over his head. Mike McDaniel went from being a running game coordinator to an offensive coordinator, and I'm putting quotes because he never called a play, offensive coordinator for 1 year, and then became the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Like that. It was a very big jump, right? Oh, this guy knows how to run the ball. Kind of helped that you had CMC and Kittle and Trent. But anyway, OC, Shanahan's like, essentially, Frank Smith is Mike McDaniel. Because Mike McDaniel's trying to be Mike Shanahan. It is what it is. And we're going to keep losing. As long as Mike McDaniel's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, we are going to keep losing because we are losing in such a fashion that it is going to continue to happen. The team is not prepared. The man literally came out last week and talked about how we lost because we weren't prepared and we were undisciplined. And it's getting worse. If you're noticing, right, the losses have now gotten worse. Because, hey, you almost beat the Chargers. Hey, you almost beat the Panthers. You beat the Jets. Hey, you almost beat the Patriots. Hey, it's 2 mistakes away from beating the Bills. You just lost 31-6. It's getting worse. And with that bad of a loss, like everyone's saying, he lost the fan base. The fan base is done with him. The fan base is done with Tua. For the longest time, I kept telling people, a lot of people still think Tua, can be something. And I was one. Again, you can go on here and check. I didn't want to give him the 5th year. I think he had promised. I think he was above average quarterback. I still do. But his inconsistencies, can't get over the hump, and his health is what drove me to be like, you let him play on that 5th year. But all of that game, so you had the first game of the season, 33-8, and now you have 31-6. The bookends, I think people are done with McDaniel, they're done with Grier, and they're done with Tua. And I've had a lot of people hit me up who were Tua believers, not Alabama Dolphin fans, but like Dolphin fans who were like, I thought he could turn it around, meaning this year, not talking about one game. And they're like, I don't see it anymore. It's time to move on. So Stephen Ross is not firing Mike McDaniel because he wants that number 1 overall pick. And in his mind, if he fires McDaniel and he either puts Bevel or Anthony Weaver as the head coach, the players will rally around somebody that's not Mike McDaniel, somebody that's not a pushover, somebody that's not, it's essentially the substitute teacher, and will win games we shouldn't win, right? So if he fired Mike McDaniel yesterday, then all of a sudden we probably would beat the Falcons. We might beat Washington. All of a sudden the guys might play a little bit harder for the new interim head coach. We saw it with Dan Campbell when we came out, fired our head coach. I think it was Joe Philbin at the time, and we beat the Texans and the Titans. We beat the brakes off the Texans and the Titans those 2 games, like the most we scored in the first half. And I don't think Stephen Ross wants that. I think Stephen Ross wants to sit back and watch the Jets win 1 or 2 more games and coast. Prime example is right here what Benjamin Albright says. Because what's the point? In-season firing makes rabid fans feel good, but the owner still has to pay the coach, and you're not going to hire the interim. This isn't college where you need to get a jump on recruiting. There's a playoff mandate that knows it's coming at the end of the year. So again, we fire him. We can't get a new head coach. We got to wait till the playoffs start. But also, Barry Jackson talked about it as well. And he said, where is it? He talked about essentially, what's the point? I saw it. Definitely not happy. 3 interceptions. He's talking about Tua. Tua. Because he hit the nail on the head. First team rep. McDaniel said Tua got the first team reps. Who cares? Running back, receiver, tight end, Julian Hill, offensive guard. I saw it somewhere. Oh, no, it was. I'll tell you where it was. Sorry, I'm like all over the place right now. I think it was Pro Football Focus, not Pro Football Focus, but they had an article essentially saying, why would you, here it is, Pro Football Talk. Remember the allegations of Ross allegedly offered former head coach Brian Flores $100,000 for each loss. Ross called it a joke, was still searching for the punchline. Once it's clear that the playoffs are a pipe dream at best, being bad can be very good. The worse the Dolphins can do, the higher they select in the 2026 draft. And some owners may decide that sometimes it's much easier to take your lumps. Regardless, Ross will not be taking them along with his team. If things don't turn around quickly, the stadium could become a ghost town on game day, and Ross will learn again, the only thing better than being rich and famous is being rich. So the tank, he wanted a tank in 2019. Brian Flores did not want a tank in 2019, so they didn't tank in 2019. Now, honestly, everyone thought when the season started, this is a tank year. It wasn't. If it was a tank year, you don't bring in Rasul Douglas. You don't bring in Judon. You don't do the things that the Dolphins did if it was a tank year. What you do is you let the young guys run, right? You don't bring Rasul Douglas in. You don't bring in Jack Jones. You don't bring in any of those guys. You just let the young guys play, and you figure it out as you're going along. But now, if you notice what happened yesterday with Zach Wilson being demoted to third string, with Judon being demoted, and all of these things happening, now all of a sudden you're sitting at 1-6. Now they're going to tank. They want that number 1 overall pick. And what do they want with that number 1 overall pick? That's where Tua Tagovailoa comes in, right? Because Tua's contract is a fickle one. And we're going to look at it. But there's something that I found interesting that Spot Track talked about. Can the Dolphins designate Tua Tagovailoa a post-June 1st release next March? If the 2026 option is declined, then 2027, it will be a $21 million cap savings. In this 2026, it'll be $11 million cap loss. But if the 2026 option is exercised and the Miami Dolphins designate Tua as a June 1st cut, they'll save just $1 million. Keep in mind, all this formulates on release involving a $54 million cash payout. So again, the Miami Dolphins, and I'll show you right here. I'll show you right here. A lot of people talk about, oh, we can't, Tua's going to be here in 2026. Tua's going to be here in 2026. So here's Tua's contract, right? 2026, you know, if they try to do anything, work, damn you. I'm Gumby, damn it. You know, I'll just go here. I had it in here. If they go and they try to trade him, or they just cut him, they're like, screw it, we're going to cut him. They $42.8 million, right? And if they make it a post June 1st, like he said, it's $11 million. But if they do the exercising of his option, then it's a $1 million savings. But if they somehow can find a way to trade him, it's an $11 million savings before the draft, and it is a $43 million savings after the draft. So again, you can move things around. Like he was saying, who is essentially Spot Track, the guy whose website I was going off of, keep in mind keep in mind that all forms of release involve a $54 million cash payout. So here's what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, boys and girls, children of all ages. Here's what I'm getting at. The Miami Dolphins throw the towel in, right? Which it seems like they're in that situation where they're like, and this is why Steve Ross isn't making a move now, because, you know, when I was telling him to make a move, it would have helped to turn the season around, right? How many weeks have I said, they got to fire him, they got to fire him, they got to fire him? I think after the Panthers game, I'm like, you got to fire him. And you never know. After the Panthers game, if they fired him and Weaver or Bevel became the head coach, and all of a sudden that rejuvenating feeling in the locker room happened, they might have beaten the Chargers and the Browns. Right. And then all of a sudden you're sitting in a different situation where you're like, hey, look at them. They woke up. There's a possibility. Look at the, you know, but we're not there. So they're in tank mode. Say we get the first overall pick and Mendoza's sitting there. And Mendoza continues his stride, but knock on wood, continues playing really good football, right? Comes out, has a, you know, fantastic combine, has a fantastic pro day. Everyone's clamoring about Mendoza. Whew, look at this guy's arm and this and that. Wow. He might be the first overall pick. Then all of a sudden, if you're the Dolphins, this is what you do. You take Mendoza. And I know people are going to say, well, we got to focus on the offensive line, Doug. You're preaching to the choir. How many times have I told you guys about the offensive line? But there's 7 rounds and multiple picks in each round, and there's free agency. So we'll get there. You could trade Tua Tagovailoa. Who's going to take that contract? That's where things can get to be worked out. That's where Stephen Ross can put his money where his mouth is. All right, Stephen, we did what you wanted to. We tanked. We got the first overall pick, and we're going to take Mendoza. I think he's a Miami native. I think he's Cuban, Miami native, and he's a Dolphin fan. We're going to take him. We like what we've seen. Again, I'm not saying that, again, it's flipping October. I don't know what trajectory Mendoza can go on. Sellers is another name that's out there, and you got like all these guys. Right now, I'm not even in college, you know, prospect mode, but I'm just throwing things at you, and so you can think of things. Okay, you know, Mendoza. We'll take him first overall. Whoever the new GM is and the new head coach is like, yeah, I want my quarterback. I don't want Tua. And what Stephen Ross can do is he can put money where his mouth is. We're going to get you your quarterback. You need to move off of Tua. But we need cap space to do things. So we can't eat this huge cap hit, and we can't wait. Stephen Ross can bust out his checkbook. They can manipulate the contract. They can add things and make them signing bonuses or do whatever. Again, I'm not proficient enough to know how they would move things around or move things to cash and yada, yada, and ship him to another team that won't affect their cap. It won't be a $45 million cap hit to the new team. And it's a 1-year rental for that team, because then after 2026, you can cut him and you trade Tua. Because in all honesty, it's the same thing I said about Ryan Tannehill. Tua needs a new area. He needs a new situation. The Miami Dolphins have done nothing to service Tua, right? His rookie year, they bring in an offensive coordinator that is going to help Ryan Fitzpatrick, not Tua. Then you have the whole Brian Flores situation. You have him have at one point 2 offensive coordinators at the same time. They just didn't help him. And then the whole time Chris Grier is building, he's going out and getting pass rushers and corners and fast short receivers and this, and that, instead of building up the offensive line, building up the trenches, and working on a run game where Tua would thrive. It's the same thing with Ryan Tannehill. We said the same thing with Tannehill. You give Tannehill a decent offensive line and a run game, he will do well. No, Tannehill sucks. Tannehill's the worst. Tannehill sucks. Goes to Tennessee with a good offensive line and a good run game. Wow, he was the number 1 seed. It's the same thing. And a lot of people will be like, no, you can't say that he didn't do the offensive line. Bottom 3rd in the NFL since 2022 and using cap and draft capital on offensive linemen. Bottom 3rd in the NFL and using cap on offensive linemen. The man literally came out and said, you're more worried about the offensive line than we are. They had to come out and say, I can get the ball out quickly. He needs to go somewhere else, because it ain't working here no more, as we could tell. He's regressing drastically. So after this half-hour episode of me rambling on and giving you all my thoughts and opinions and putting my tinfoil hat on, I honestly think that that's the plan. I think we're tanking. I think that's why McDaniel's still here. I think you're going to see a big jettison of talent. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Matthew Judon, Jalen Wright, Zach Wilson. You're going to see a lot of guys get moved. I would be surprised if it's less than 3 players get traded from the Dolphins. I think there's a core that won't get touched. I'll talk about that on the 1st. But yeah, I think they're going to tank. I think they're trying to get the number 1 overall pick. I think they will trade Tua. If they don't trade Tua, I think Tua is going to come out and demand a trade. I think Tua is going to come out and say, I want to be traded. I don't want to play for the Dolphins anymore, which I think would be smart on his part, because again, and I think we got a new quarterback in 2026. I think we draft a quarterback in the 1st round. Again, if they don't get the 1st overall pick, then all right, we'll see how things pan out after that. And I think we sign a veteran and let the new head coach decide, is he ready to start or not? I think that's all that's going to happen. Comment below. Am I crazy, or do you agree? I will see you tomorrow with the picks. And then Friday, we got the preview for the Falcons game, and I'll be live 1 o'clock Friday with my dad again. Then we got a short week, and then we got the Ravens. So appreciate y'all. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you supporting still, even through all this torment. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple months. Other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. If it's up.